Hello.
Hello.
Hi. That's
Hi.
good.
All right. We
That's better.
managed. How are
You
you,
just
Bessel?
make it complicated. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How are you?
I'm okay. So
Yeah,
are you in France?
can you hear me now? You
Yeah,
can hear me, you can see me?
I can see you. Yeah.
Okay, great. Perfect. So we're a bit early. Maybe we'll wait a little bit for people to join and get started in a few minutes, maybe.
Okay.
Um, we can start by asking everyone maybe where you're joining from. Just let us know what country, what city, um, and maybe while everyone is joining, we're just sending the last reminders. Um, Maybe it's a good time to maybe make a quick recap of what happened yesterday because well, we had the first day of the healing days yesterday. We had really an incredible time. We had more than 1,000 people, more than 20,000 people. Sorry. So it's quite incredible. It's like a football stadium, right? Um, so a lot of people, and we're also expecting a lot of people coming today. Um, so just maybe for those who weren't there, I can give a very quick recap of what was said yesterday. Well, first off, we had a brilliant explanation from Tim Fletcher about how trauma happens in the brain. Um, we had really a description, a great description of how it happens on the nervous system. I'm just gonna give you a presentation here. Um, he really described really well what really happens when you get into a fight or flight mode. He described the role of the limbic brain and particularly the bridge between the limbic brain and the neocortex. And also he went through the steps that you can take to repair your mind, to create the right conditions to change. And then there was an incredible experience from Marissa. We went to see our inner child and create an energy of parenting on our own selves. So it was an incredible meditation. The chat got completely quiet. It was really nice, and I myself sort of slipped away for a moment, and I almost forgot that I was giving a conference with 20,000 people. So we gathered a few feedback from yesterday that you guys sent us in the chat. Um, I'm just gonna read a few. For example, Julia, who said, "Thank you so much for providing this free to so very many people desperate to heal. God bless you. God bless you as well, Julia." Um, or there's Marlene, for example, who said 100% mind blown. I was expecting a lit, but this first class was absolutely 100% helpful and insightful. So we had a lot of great feedback. I saw earlier Denise say in this chat today that yesterday was really groundbreaking for her. So that's really nice to see, and trust us that we're preparing very good things for you today as well. Um, so let's get started now. We can get started, and maybe I'll start by presenting myself. Let me check if I can. Yeah, there you go. maybe I can start by presenting myself and giving the agenda of the conference, and then obviously I'll give the microphone to you, Bessel, which is what everyone is expecting. So for those who weren't there yesterday, just quick reminder: I'm the co-founder of Mentor Show. We are the organizer of this event, and obviously our mission is to become the world's #1 platform for healing. So we're bringing knowledge, support, everything you can get in one place, so that you never have to look for answers again. You have everything in one place. We're organizing this, but it's a free event from start to end. It's completely free. So there's, I think, incredible value. There's going to be more than 8 hours of conference. But at some point, I will answer some questions that we had on our app on Mentor Show to explain. Some people are going to want to go further and have the Mentor Show app to help them heal. I'm going to answer to those people. I'm going to take 10 minutes at some point of the conference. And actually, this is the agenda for today. We first, obviously, Bessel is going to present himself. Then we're going to see how trauma shapes the nervous system. This is going to be the first part. The second part is about understanding automatic responses like anxiety, panic, emotional overwhelm as really nervous system responses and not mental weakness. And then the third part will be about seeing what healing actually feels like, right? This is going to be the first 3 parts. Then I'm going to take a few minutes to present Mentor Show, to present the Heal Masterclass, to answer the few questions that we got. And after that, there's going to be 2 experiences prepared by Bessel to put this into practice. And finally, there's going to be a Q&A where I'm going to give your questions to Bessel, and he'll answer those. So actually, people, you can, throughout the whole conference, you can send your questions to Bessel, and the Mentor Show team will make sure to gather them all, send them to me, and we'll we'll do our best to answer those as many as we can at the end of the conference. And actually, then Bessel will leave. We will leave, and we're going to have a small surprise for you at the end of the conference. We're going to play for you the teaser of the Heal Masterclass. We're going to play 1 lesson, and I'll also answer any question that you might have about mentorship, if there are still some questions remaining. All right, so I think that's pretty clear, and maybe Bessel, you can start by introducing yourself for those who don't necessarily know you in this conference.
Well, my name is Bessel van der Kolk. I'm a psychiatrist. I went to medical school and trained in psychiatry after that. And I started off as a psychopharmacologist because back in the 70s and 80s, there was enormous promise that we could figure out how chemicals change the brain and that we could cure mental illness. And I did the first studies on Prozac and Zoloft for PTSD. And the results weren't bad. They were not particularly good either. And so while psychiatry sort of got stuck at the psychopharm level, I started to look at what else could help people to deal with things. And what became very clear is that most trauma occurs in the context of intimate relationships, in the context of family, in the context of your caretaking systems. And I've been particularly interested in the overlap between trauma and disrupted attachment. I'm a great fan of John Bowlby, who I knew when he was still alive, and attachment researchers, because it's really that insecurity of your attachment and not knowing who you can count on that becomes a very important part of life. And so I lucked out. I was at Harvard when we got the first neuroimaging machine. So I did the first neuroimaging studies on PTSD, or a team of people. And then I got very interested in how talking alone doesn't seem to help all and completely. It's important for people to be able to talk about what happened, to know what happened, to own what happened, but somehow understanding what happens doesn't make the trauma go away. And for me, the opening window for me was really when I got interested in EMDR. And EMDR is a very strange technique. You wiggle your fingers in front of people's eyes. And what we saw is that with single incident trauma, single events, that EMDR was astoundingly effective. And that really got me intrigued. Like usually in our field, we either give people pills or we talk. And that EMDR opened up the window that there may be other things we can do. And so that led to studying neurofeedback. I've been studying theater for trauma. I've been studying psychedelics, particularly in recent years. That there are many ways in which you can open up your mind to new realities. And so that's been really my work, has been to see how our social context, our relationship to ourselves, our relationship to our body needs to be changed if we want to overcome trauma.
Right. Thank you for this presentation. And I think now we can definitely get straight into it. This really leads the way to our first chapter and our first topic, which is how can you make us understand how trauma is expressed in your muscles, in your organs, in your cellular memory, and rewiring your sense of safety?
Well, that's a very complex question. So the way we experience fear, terror, is in our bodies. When we get upset, we feel it in our chest, in our abdomen, and we experience upsetting things in the theater of our bodies. And I have spent a lot of time working with people like Peter Levine and Pat Ogden and other body workers to really understand how you can deal with the body. And so what happens is that something terrible happens, and when it's over, you think it's over, but your body continues to respond to things as if that old stuff is still there. So while your mind has moved on, your body loses its sense of time and continues to be triggered to reinstate some of the same issues that happened to you at the time that you were overwhelmed by a terrible experience. And so you feel it in your body. And in order to heal, you also need to befriend your body and not be afraid of your body and your sensations. So a very important part of what keeps trauma going is you keep feeling uptight, you keep feeling scared, you feeling feelings in your body that are very uncomfortable, and then you try to make it go away by drinking alcohol, most popular thing in the world, or you take drugs, or you start running marathons, and you work all the time to keep that body under control. And these are all stopgap measures, but at the end, you need to really learn to feel this creature who you are. And a very important part of trauma is that you become afraid of yourself. You become afraid of your own reactions and your own sensations. And so good therapy really helps people to just feel their bodies and see how they can befriend their sensations and how they don't have to be afraid of what happens inside.
Right, because I guess it's related to the sense of not being able to have a sense of safety with myself.
Yes, safety is part of it, but also agency. And not feeling that I can really make a difference. I cannot stand up for myself. I cannot protect myself. I cannot assert myself. I cannot stand up for myself. So safety is important, but people, some of my colleagues really talk a lot about safety, and safety is important, but people also want to be engaged. They want to be doing things. They want to have relationships. They want to do exciting things also. And so when you're traumatized, you're afraid to do and you're afraid to engage in a way.
And what can be the signs of that in my body?
Signs is that you feel it. You feel uptight. You feel anxious in your chest, you feel anxious in your abdomen, your muscles tighten up, you lose your voice changes, your breathing speeds up, and so your whole organism automatically starts acting as if you're in danger. And since you talked about the brain yesterday, I like to talk about it's very much like dogs. Many of us have dogs. During a thunderstorm, the dog becomes very frightened by the lightning and the sound, the thunder, and they dive under the bed. And we have a part of our brain that does the same thing, and it's our animal brain that takes over. And in order to get better, we need to befriend our animal brains and really take care of the dog that's inside of us.
I think what a lot of people might be asking themselves is, how can I differentiate between a sign in my body that comes from trauma and something that doesn't come from trauma? Like I just got back pain because I have a bad posture, or I just have some other thing in my body going in the wrong direction.
Well, that's yeah. How do you answer that? It's very much that you have a reaction that the people around you don't have. That you're in this situation and you feel yourself getting uptight, or you feel yourself becoming really angry about stuff that other people seem to not be bothered by. So, there's something about me and my threat detection system that really is off. But that's not usually how it starts. It usually starts with people getting into trouble with other people and they're saying, it is your fault. You made me angry. You made me upset. You made me frightened. And to some degree, other people can be very difficult and unpleasant to deal with. But our job is to stay in charge of ourselves and not let other people take over our physiology. So we have this mirror neuron system. And so when we're with other people, to some degree, we pick up each other's feelings and experiences automatically. And when you're traumatized, other people's feelings take you over and you get very angry or very scared. And so you feel it inside of you. And you think, oh, the fault is out there. And Shakespeare has already said, the fault, be a friend, is not in the stars, but it's inside of ourselves. And so all reactions that need to be managed by ourselves.
Right. Could you give us maybe an example from your clinical practice where really the body revealed what the mind had buried?
Let me see. People get angry about stuff and they start reacting in a very aggressive way. And you try to help people. So notice inside, notice what happens. Notice when you put your hand on your chest, and notice if you take a deep breath, what happens inside of you. Notice what becomes uptight. Notice what happens if you relax your muscles. Notice what happens if you slow down your breathing and you become more grounded.
I think you have you had a little bit of a connection freeze here, but so I guess a question that might lead from that is that, you know, if I heal, will those symptoms in my body disappear as well?
That's what healing is about. That's when you get healed, you don't react the way that you have, and you feel spontaneous. You feel ready to engage. You get excited about things. You get pulled to engage in new things. And what happens when you get traumatized, you get so afraid about your reactions that you become more and more constricted and more protective and more defensive. And so you become rigid and um, overly careful, and you lose your curiosity, and you tend to lose your enthusiasm to discover new things, and you lose your curiosity because your main preoccupation becomes, how can I somehow manage this creature who I am, or I can manage the people around me. So you try to really control things very much. Yeah.
Right, and I think it goes well to the second part of the themes that I wanted to explore with you. Is a lot of people get a lot of guilt and shame for not being able to control their reactions.
Yeah.
That's been a common testimony when we built the several masterclass on trauma and with Mentor Show. And so, can you explain to us, like, why is it so hard to think your way out of trauma?
Well, I bet you talked about it yesterday, is that the imprint of trauma is really in the back of your brain, in that animal brain, that limbic system and below. So you have these automatic reactions. And your frontal lobe, where you live, your consciousness lives, thinks, I shouldn't react this way. This is really stupid. Why do you get so angry? Why do I get so... What's wrong with me? Everybody else seems to be able to do it, but what's wrong with me that I cannot relax and cannot feel safe with people? And so there's a very deep shame, sense of there's something wrong with me. And that's particularly true with early childhood trauma. Because when you're growing up, your brain and your mind is more or less a product of the accumulation of your experiences. So if you grow up in very safe surroundings and you feel cared for and loved, you feel like, I'm a person who makes the world loving. And so kids are by nature egocentric. And when they have good experiences, say, I made good things happen. And if bad things happen to you, you get beaten up or ignored, your automatic reaction is, there's something wrong with me, that people are beating me up. And you have the sense of, I'm doing something wrong, that people get so angry with me. I'm doing something wrong because people are fighting with each other, and I cannot control that. And you start feeling really there is something defective about you, and you have this deep sense of, I'm the origin of all the bad stuff that happens around me. And in the long range, but particularly early childhood abuse and neglect, leaves this imprint in you of, there's something deeply wrong with me and I'm very defective. And people can tell you over and over again, it wasn't your fault, you were just a little kid, and your frontal lobe knows it, but the back of your brain has no cognition and has no sense of time. And so that feeling of defectiveness stays with you for a long time.
And maybe can we get a little bit more into the really the physics of it, what happens in my brain and in my body when I know logically that I'm safe in some way, but my body really doesn't believe it. Can you explain to us, like, what's happening there and how you really discovered that?
Well, the first studies that I actually did showed that back of your brain, that right amygdala lights up, and the very primitive part of your brain that is your smoke detector keeps going off and tells you, I'm in danger, I'm in danger. And your frontal lobe is reasonable. I said, no, you're not in danger, but you keep getting these signals from the back of your brain that you're in danger. So the person who's probably done the best work in this is Ruth Lanius in Canada, who shows that there is a very primitive part of your brain way in the back, just above your brainstem. It's called the periaqueductal gray. I call it the cockroach part of your brain, and it tells your brain you're in danger. And when you have no trauma, that part of your brain is quiet and only gets activated if you actually are in danger. But once you develop Post-traumatic stress, that part of your brain is always firing. There's always this little signal comes to the back of your brain. You better be careful. You better be careful. Terrible things are happening to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so, let's say someone is in the middle of a panic attack like this, or a freeze response. How can they begin to really ground themselves?
You can ground themselves by, oftentimes we need other people for that. We need to be encouraged by somebody. And that's why we take yoga classes, and we take meditation classes, and we take theater classes, so that somebody can really guide you in going into yourself and to notice what's going on. A very important part of dealing with trauma is to allow yourself to feel what you feel and to notice it. So if people say, I'm really getting scared, you say, how do you know you're scared? Where do you feel it in your body? And then you ask people to go there and to feel it and to say, what happens if you take a deep breath? No, doesn't work. What happens if you tap certain acupressure points? Oh, yeah, I feel a bit calmer if I do that. What happens if I stand up and push against something? And so it's really, you need to experiment with, how can I gain a sense of ownership of my own physiology? And that's always an experimental things. Things that work for one person don't work for the other thing. For example, I did the first studies on yoga for PTSD, and my colleague said, that's crazy, meaning putting your butt in the air and twisting your spine in a Bessel, treatment for PTSD. So we studied it, and it turned out that actually yoga can be very helpful for people, and probably for most people can be more helpful than most medications are. And so what you do in yoga is you activate that interoceptive capacity, that you feel your body, and it feels safe to feel your body. You say, oh, that's what happens. And you get a sense of time. And the sense of time is terribly important, because when you go to panic, you feel like this will last forever. But if you really notice it, you notice that things keep shifting. And somebody needs to help you to become aware how your own internal world shifts, and that you can do things to shift your own internal world.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, let's continue on this path with really understanding what healing actually feels like. What would safety in the body actually look and feel like for people who are healing from trauma?
Oh, safety is just that you are somewhere and you choose to respond. And you say, I would like to argue with that person, and you feel comfortable to argue with them. Or you can say, I really like to tell this person that I love them, and you tell them that you love them. And if you want to play with somebody, you say, let's play. So that you can really be totally there for the moment, and not have that voice in your head saying, no, this is dangerous, you can't do this, terrible things will happen to you. And you can really be fully alive in the moment. That's really what healing is all about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Could you give a quick overview on the body-based therapies that you've seen, why they work, and also maybe establish a little bit the different ones you've mentioned, that there are many who work different for different people, and maybe point us towards potentially some studies on that.
Well, that's a very tricky question, of course, and that is that psychiatry and psychology have never really paid attention to the body, and so in mainstream psychology there is very little known, and it would be very hard to get funded to do a study on body-based therapies. And so what we see in the world is that there always have been people like Wilhelm Reich a long time ago, and Peter Levine, Pat Ogden.
Mm-hmm.
Feldenkrais, these people have worked at the body, but that's always, by the scientific establishment, has always been a little suspicious of that. And and so they don't study it. So what's impressive to me is that when you go to an academic institution, there will be very few people who know anything about the body, and that you really need to find people who practice it. And that can be Feldenkrais, it can be another body-based technique, and it really, you access whoever is available in your particular community. But that's rarely ever in the medical psychiatric mainstream world. It's beginning to, I think my book has made some difference there also, and that people are beginning to pay attention to the body, but that's still outside of the mainstream largely. Yeah.
And in the patients that you've seen in the studies that you see, I'm just trying to get people who potentially have tried some things. How would you rank? How would you to what potential solutions would you point them to based on what you've seen and what you've studied?
Well, so the people who I know and respect are Peter Levine with somatic experiencing, Ben Alkin with emotive psychotherapy, and so there's a number of people who have written books about it. Who are very good. And what they do actually is they show that your body gets frozen. At some point when you get traumatized, you tighten yourself up and you become a really uptight and frozen person in a way who explodes from time to time. And in these treatments, you actually help people to feel the things that they wanted to feel and take the action that they couldn't take back then. And so sometimes pushing people away might be very helpful. Hitting a punch ball might be very helpful. Establish a sense of, I can do something. I can manage something. I can stand up for myself. But back then, I couldn't do anything. And so to a large degree, healing from trauma is to have new experiences where you can do what you could not do back then. Standing up for yourself, pushing people away, setting boundaries, walking away from things. So to really have your body be your ally, you have your body work for you. And what we see is sometimes people work on their rape, and then they feel the old feeling, I wanted to push, but I couldn't. And then in body-based therapy, you can actually make that movement and say, oh my God, if I could have made that movement back then, I would have felt so much better. And now that circuit in my brain of defending myself gets activated by doing it.
I understand. So it means that you would in some way recreate the experience, the traumatic experience that you had, but in a safe way, and also in a way where you have ownership and you can decide for yourself and actually take the way that is the right one for you.
Yeah, you can sort of experiment to do things and say, oh, that feels better. Oh, that makes me feel in charge. Oh, that makes me feel in charge. And that makes me feel strong or empowered. And to really experiment with bodily postures and sensations and to really feel things that you have been afraid to feel.
Have you had some patients who have managed to really heal thanks to these methods?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
After 50 years, you don't advocate methods that don't work. Like
Yeah. It's I think it's nice for people to hear and to give hope to all those people who are here with us today. When someone starts to truly feel safe and have that feeling of empowerment, what are the first subtle signs that they might notice in their everyday life?
Well, their minds open up, so they become more curious. They are able to engage with people. They are get more pleasure out of their social interactions. They are more patient with their partners. They're more curious about their partners. For example, during COVID, there was a very sharp increase in domestic violence. That didn't surprise me because people are difficult. And even if you have a good relationship, you have habits and things that you do that irritate the other person and vice versa. And if you can't get away from each other and you're locked up in a room, you're more likely to become violent. And what we see in effective treatments, we saw it very clearly in my psychedelic research, for example, is that when people get COVID, then they didn't become angry with people. They are more curious. They're more tolerant. They're more like, oh, she seems to be upset about something. Oh, but I don't feel upset. How can I help her to be less upset? Yeah.
How can you tell the difference between a temporary relief and really lasting change? I feel like
Only
sometimes
time will tell. But basically, what you see is that once people have an experience that is really different, it tends to stick. Right? If you have never stood up for yourself and you do karate, at certain point you say, I know how to do it. I know how to protect myself. If you have been afraid of heights and now the fear has gone away, you can stand at the precipice. You go, oh, it's an interesting landscape. And I don't feel I'm going to die. That's how you know.
Right. So to create an experience that is different and that where you're really empowered.
Right. But so the pieces, you need to have an experience, but somebody needs to give you the courage and the support to go to these experiences that by nature are maybe a little bit scary and upsetting. So we need to have other people usually to help us to go there and to try it out because that person is there to make us feel safe. And so the interpersonal connection in therapy is terribly important, and to feel safe with the person who is working with you on opening things up inside of you.
Right. Yeah, I think that's very well put, and I think then people can really make it a habit. I think actually someone from the chat earlier on said like, I'm learning to build new habits as if they were a second nature, as if to build myself a second nature. And I think that's very well put because when what I see and what we've seen with the different masterclasses on healing that we've built is that people who really succeed were building a second nature, new habits, new ways of acting that they can get accustomed to and that can almost work by themselves at some point because they've done it so many times.
I think that's it's interesting that word habit is just coming into our vocabulary in the past year or so. We're working on a new book called Come to Your Senses, in which the issue of habit is very central, and that in some ways being traumatized is a habit of fear and a habit of protectiveness. And so indeed you need to create new habits. And there's very good research done by Siegel and Farb and Zacchaeus who show that the way you can get new habits is by focusing on the sensory input in your body. So that the way you change your habits is by having new sensations and new sensory input. So the intellectual thing doesn't do it, but you need to have the sensory experience to change that core orientation of your mind.
I think a risk of that for when I put myself in people's shoes is that you mentioned many people use coping mechanisms, for example alcohol, but also you mentioned exercise or work or even maybe meditation to really escape discomfort. So how can we distinguish when I'm doing that for genuine healing and actually avoiding disguised avoiding discomfort?
Well, I think the way it goes is at some point you say to yourself, it isn't working. Or I have another relationship that didn't work out. And of course, it's all her fault in the first place. But slowly you start thinking about what is it about me that killed this relationship? Why do my kids not talk to me? Why do my old friends they turned against me? Is something that I'm doing that gets in the way of people feeling safe with me and feeling good about being with me? And so it's people go and get help because there's bad stuff happening. The things aren't working, and they may fall down when they're drunk, or they may not show up for work, or they may actually hit other people or hurt other people. And at some point, you go like, I can't go on this way. But going to therapy is almost always like a desperate move. I cannot continue to live my life this way.
So for someone who has never tried the body-based therapies, what would be a simple first step that they can take at home to reconnect with their body really safely on their own?
I think yoga is a very good way of doing it. It's like all over the world, people have yoga classes, and going to a yoga class, not a fast yoga class where you mainly focus on having your butt muscles tightened up, but really slow yoga to really feel your experience, to feel your body, and to explore that creature who you are. But I'm also curious about how dancing might be able to do it. And people don't really study that. But a study that we're trying to do in Brazil right now is to study capoeira for traumatic stress. And so there may be many different ways of approaching that. Yeah.
How did your studies on yoga come out? What were the results?
Well, the results were really quite dramatically good. And
okay.
No, it's interesting. We did a study. You always have to have a comparison group. And
right.
So we compared people who got an education about eating well and taking good care of yourself. And we had a yoga class, and we compared the two groups. And the person who ran our education group was a very funny woman. And people always left her group laughing and have their hands around each other. And I said to her, hey, come on, stop laughing with your patients, because that gives yoga a very little chance, because yoga teachers never laugh at their patients. Calmed herself down. She tried not to make people laugh, but she couldn't help herself. And then we looked at the outcome, and that's that the group that got to be friendly with each other and have a good time together did very well for a little while, and then they went back into their traumatic experiences.
Okay.
Hadn't changed. And the more boring yoga teachers, they changed a little bit, and at the end of 12 weeks, people were much better. And then we continued with a small group for 6 months, and you saw slowly people becoming calmer and more oriented and more aware of themselves and feeling more pleasure and feeling more engaged with their lives.
Wow, that's just really impressive. Quite fascinating study to get into. All right, so I think we've already got through the first part of the theory, and I'd like to know, people, how did you like it? What did you get from it? Can you share with us in the chat? I know I learned a lot, so let us know how you found it. And now, for a few minutes, I'm going to go through a few questions that we got from yesterday on Mentor Show and on the masterclass, the Heal masterclass. All right. So first question was, I think very relevant question for a lot of people. It was from Tanya. I've read a lot of books on trauma. I've watched a lot of videos online, but I'm still stuck. Why would this masterclass actually help me move forward when nothing else has? All right, so I can see the chat is now really firing up about the first part with Bessel. So I'm going to read a few. Deborah, who says enlightening. Esther, love this first part so far. We have a lot of people. Yin yoga is very helpful. A lot of yeses, and people are very, very excited. So thanks for the feedback. So Tanya, before making the course, the Heal Masterclass, we talked to thousands of people who had experienced trauma, and they had tried a lot of things, right? So we actually asked them, and here is the results based on about 2,500 people. So you can see there's people had tried therapy, meditation, medication, physical exercise, and a lot of things. But some of them were disappointed with these solutions, and I think it's for a very simple reason. And as we discussed extensively right now with Bessel, it's because your trauma is living inside of you, and you have to build a second nature. And it's really only practice and creating new habits in your daily life that is gonna bring you to the path of healing. And so we asked people, these 2,500 people, what do they need, what do they want from the masterclass? And people were really, the grand majority of people said we need practical exercises. We need practical exercise because we need to create these new habits and create these changes in our bodies. So that's why we decided to build a really practical guide towards healing. And this is why all these people, we have a lot of feedback, a lot of testimonies. We have thousands of people who really were very satisfied with the course so far. About 2,700 people who gave a grade of 4.8 out of 5. So people were very, very satisfied of Gabor's Heal Masterclass. And we gathered a few of testimonies here. I'm not going to read all of them, but for example, I can't stop crying with such deep relief while watching this masterclass. David, who said, please extend my gratitude with all the team that makes this masterpiece possible. It changed my life. I'm quite sure it will do the same to many people around the world. Thanks, David, for this incredible testimony. And for example, Matthew Conat, thank you, Dr. Gabor, for creating this masterclass, sharing your wisdom. This has opened my eyes, seeing myself in a new way. I got present to how much blinded I was, and I'm now more confident to share and pass on the wisdom to others. So I feel like I'm bragging on this, but it was a lot of work, and it's obviously as a founder of Mentor Show, it's really our goal to get testimonies like this. So that's why we show them. Another question was, can you explain the HEAL method again? So I'm just going to go through it quickly. H is the first part of the course. It's to hear the pain, we call it. So to find the root, to really understand where the suffering is coming from, and basically to make trauma a teacher. So there are like self-awareness protocols, there are different mapping questionnaires, and so on. Then E is empower yourself to heal. So here you have to turn insight into action. So that's going to be where you're going to have tools, you're going to have daily routines, you're going to have weekly routines. Then once you've done that, you have A, which is the part about aligning your relationships. And here it's a major theme that the 2,500 people we worked with were very often mentioning is how can I protect my children? How can I not pass it on to my children? How can I protect my children from trauma? And how can I protect my relationships? And last, we have L, lifelong healing. And this is the part where we really take the course even further than the course itself. So really to build lifelong habits that will last long after the masterclass ends.
Can you say something about that? You focus on what you can do, but I think healing always occurs in a larger social context. The trauma is usually an interpersonal event, and so you have an interpersonal fear and a difficulty connecting, and you heal trauma really in community, and people show you how to do it. People do things together with each other. People experiment together. This is not a solitary enterprise. You don't heal from trauma by yourself. You heal from trauma with other people.
Yeah.
And most things, with exception maybe of neurofeedback, really involve somebody who helps you to do it, and a contact with people who work with you on creating that. I don't think you can do this all by yourself.
Yeah, that's true. And actually, that's a very good point, Bessel, and it's a very good transition to the last part I wanted to get into on this questionnaire, and then we will get to the experiences that you've prepared. We had a few questions on the offer that we made for the healing days, and I'm just going to remind everyone what's included in this offer. So obviously you have the course, the Heal Masterclass, but as Bessel just said, you cannot really do this on your own. And it's true that sometimes, even though you have amazing content in there, you have more than 7 hours of Gabor's teachings and practical exercises and so on. Well, sometimes people feel a little bit alone in front of the screen. And you have to be shown the way, you have to be taken by the hand, and you have also to share it with other people who have the same issues or the same energy as you, right? And this is why in this offer, we have weekly live sessions, so that's more than 50 sessions, where you have trauma specialized coaches, where you're going to have the ability to ask your questions, to get some advice, and really try to keep your momentum strong. So that's 50 sessions in total. You're also going to have exclusive webinars where we dive into different topics, and obviously all the future healing masterclass, and namely obviously the Grand Bessel. So here it is for the offer. We had a few questions on the guarantee as well. Just Jamie, who said, so if I'm not happy in 3 months, I can get the money back. Who does this kind of guarantee? It's crazy. So yes, Jamie, it's crazy, but it's what we've decided to do. So it's just to help you to take that step. The guarantee is very simple, is that if you take the course and in 3 months or in whatever time you feel like it hasn't helped you, or you just don't want it anymore, or you feel like you need the money back for some reason or anything else, if you've watched the masterclass, you've done the exercises, and you can send them to us, well, we'll refund you the totality. So that's a risk we take to make the choice very easy for you. All right. So these are really the key questions that I wanted to answer from these 3 people. And now that we've gone through those questions, we can get to the next part, which is the experiences that you've prepared for us, Bessel. So we can get into the first one, which was the body scan.
But I want to really mention something else. That, um, as a neuroscientist, I know what the circuitry in the brain that gets really messed up. And we really need to be helped to change our circuitry. And so, for example, we can use brain-computer interface stuff. We can use neurofeedback, and we can pick up the electrical circuits in the brain, and we can play computer games with your own brain to calm your brain down and help your brain to become more focused. And so there's things you can do, but with people who really know what they're doing to actually help you for the next phase. And I think doing body exercise by yourself is helpful, but it doesn't really make the profound changes that we see with, let's say, neurofeedback, with psychedelics, with EMDR, with our theater work, because you need to have experiences with other people who really help you to reorganize your brain circuitry. And you cannot do that by yourself. And so I can tell you, oh, you can pay attention to this, which is a nice piece, but you need to go much further than that. And that you cannot do that on the cheap. You need to really dedicate yourself to experience these methods. And so my book, which has sold over 6 million copies around the world by now, has a lot of chapters on different techniques of what you can do. I have a chapter on what talking can do and what talking cannot do. I have a chapter on EMDR, what EMDR can do and EMDR cannot do. I have a chapter on neurofeedback, what you can do with brain-computer interfaces, how your brain can become rewired by doing a chapter on yoga, how yoga exercises. I have a chapter on, not on psychedelics, the next book, but there are certain things you can do collectively with other people, with experts, to really rebalance your brain. And you cannot do Feldenkrais by yourself. You cannot do these body techniques by yourself. But it's good to go to a yoga class and sink into yourself. But it's a communal enterprise. And I'm concerned about people relying on screens to virtually have an experience. Actually, we need to throw our screens away and do things with other people and experience things with other people, with our bodies, actually. Yeah.
Right. And so for the people who came here today and are now with us, how can we can give them a sense of how the body scan works and really try to live this experience all together?
We could, but I would rather talk about the amazing things you can do with psychedelics. Which is not only by yourself. It can be an experience that you can open up your mind to unknown things. And my main research in the past 10 years has been on psychedelics, and we come up with results we have never seen before, actually. So yes, you can do the body scan. Yes, you can be in touch with it, a very good part, but you need to have more than that. So let's not pretend like it's so simple, because when you get traumatized, your brain circuitry is really different, and you need to really help people to be able to pay attention in a different way. Neurofeedback is helpful for that. Psychedelics is helpful for that. Psychotherapy alone, usually not. Body work alone, usually not either. Complex. Trauma healing is a complex exploration of what makes sense to you to get better. Simple. Getting into your body is important, and so I can ask you, just sit in your chair.
All right.
And feel your butt in the chair. And notice your spine. And see if you want to maybe move a little bit to feel more aligned. And maybe you want to notice if there's any area of tension in your body. And you may notice if you shift your leg or shift your belly, how that may be different. And just sort of notice the way you're sitting. Just notice your breath. Just go inside. What we know from neuroscience research is the only way we can really change is by going inside and activate the interoceptive pathways of the brain. And so you pay attention to your internal world and notice what's going on inside of you right now. Just notice your breathing. Notice your belly. Notice your chest. Notice how fast your breathing is. And just feel yourself. And then maybe you want to put a hand on your chest and just feel your hand beating your chest and your chest beating your hand. And notice what it's like for your body to have a hand that touches you. Just notice it. See what it feels like to be held by you. And then notice your hand and what it's like for your hand to feel your body. And just see what comes up. And if we were together in the same room, I'd say, why don't you write down what you notice about yourself? Or if you're in therapy together, I'd say, what happens inside of you as you feel your hand against your chest and your body against your hand? So that's really the beginning of meeting this creature who is you. And to notice what's tense and what's not tense. And notice what you can do to relax that creature. And notice what thoughts come up. And notice how noisy your brain is, how active your brain is. And see if you can maybe focus on your out-breath. Your out-breath activates your parasympathetic nervous system, calms you down. And so as you breathe, focus on your out-breath and take about 6 counts to breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and hold it. Take a deep breath and blow it out. Hold your breath. Take a deep breath in and very slowly breathe out. And so that's a very important part of a yoga practice, of a meditation practice, of your learning to be in your own company. One common thing in trauma is you like to be engaged with stuff out there and be distracted by television or noises, this stuff, but just to spend time with you. And then say, how do you feel about this creature who you're holding? What do you wish for this creature you're holding? What are your desires? And then we talk about it. And we talk about how we can make these things happen and what wasn't happening back there and what we can fill in now. So that's one. We could do this for hours, and sometimes we do. There's sessions with my patients that this is all we do in 1 hour, to just be there with yourself and see what comes up and see what parts come up. Because one of the things that we have learned about with trauma is how we have multiple selves living inside of ourselves. Part of us may be very controlling and like to push things on people. Part of us may be very destructive. Again, a good example. Today, a patient of mine came to see me and she said, you told me something that made me feel like you really cared for me. And the next thing that happened, is that she had a lot of traumatic things coming back from her mind. What happened at this point is that as she started to feel safe with me, another part of her came out and said, be careful, don't trust people too much. They're dangerous. And so another part came out that was aggressive and warning her, don't trust anybody. And what we do then is say, how did that part of you protect you? Where did you learn that life is not safe? And how has this part been helpful to you? And you thank that part for being so protective of you, even though it messes up your life. And you say, maybe we can step back and see what that part is protecting inside of you and what hurt it is protecting. This is again something you cannot really do by yourself. Someone needs to be there and to help you to go deep inside and to really get to know all these parts about yourself and to really feel yourself very deep. So that's one thing. The other thing that I imagine other people also talk about is this really interesting thing of tapping acupressure points. My favorite person there is David Feinstein, an energy psychologist and a very good scholar, married to Donna Eden, who's a wonderful body worker. And what people discovered, all Chinese medicine, is that there's certain acupressure points that you can tap to calm that system down, to get your mind in that window of tolerance where it's not too excited or not too shut down. And so, but now I'm a Western trained doctor. The stuff really doesn't make sense to me. But in Chinese medicine, they say if you tap certain parts of your body, you can calm yourself down. I use it a lot with my patients. So you can follow me. You start tapping over here. The Chinese call this a reversal point. As a Western trained doctor, I have no idea what a reversal point means, but it seems to do something to change your energy. Next point to tap is over here between your fourth and fifth metaphalanx, over here. And you tap there. And as you do that, just notice any shifts in the energy in your body. Get calmer, more focused, more agitated, whatever. And then you tap over here on your superciliary ridge, it's called. And just notice what happens in your body. Or if tapping is unpleasant, you can just hold it. Next place you tap is your zygomatic arch over here. Just notice what happens. Next tap over here, the infraorbital ridge. Next point you tap is over here, the glabella. And you tap over here. And the last point I tap, you tap over here, acupressure point number 27. And then you tap over here between your 11th and 12th rib. And then you hold yourself here. And I'm pretty sure that most of you who followed me felt some energetic change in your body. Most people do. There's only a few people for whom it doesn't work, but it's a very nice way of calming that system that you live in and getting more focused.
Wow, thank you for these two exercises. It's incredible because it sounds quite simple. You can do it anywhere. You just need yourself basically, and a room that's a little bit quiet. And I thought it was very effective. I can see Mika, holy crap, that was such a somatic change. Loved it immediately, super calm. I felt all kinds of things that felt great. So it's incredible to discover that, because it's like having a tool that you can bring anywhere at any time. You just need yourself,
Right.
and I guess that's why it's so effective.
Yeah, they're nice little pieces as a part of a larger practice. So there's not the end in of itself. And if you really want to do the real trauma work, I would say you need to really explore deeper ways of going inside. And these days, deep meditation experiences are important. Um, Psychedelics, I don't know how far people are. It's legal in Australia now. In the US, we mainly use ketamine. The study I did was an MDMA. People do ayahuasca, but they can be very heart opening if done in the right conditions. Everything is always, the set and setting is critical. And so you don't just do things, it needs to be done at the right place with the right person. And you need to take your time. And there's no quick answers. If you do have a psychedelic experience, you prepare yourself for it, you go through it, and you debrief yourself, and it really becomes a very serious experience that will help you to really open up major things about yourself. And what we saw in our psychedelic research is a dramatic change in self-compassion. And you and I started off talking about how trauma often lead to a lot of shame and self-hatred and not being able to stand the way you feel. And on psychedelics, we see a very profound shift in people meeting their trauma and going like, I was so little, or I was so helpless, or I feel so bad that this happened to me. And then the next thing that often happens, very surprising, after people get compassion for themselves, they also get compassion for their perpetrator. And they say, my father was this violent man who always put me down. And now he never got to enjoy this beautiful baby that I was. I was a lovely child. And instead of loving this child, he beat me up. And he didn't never get to experience the joy of what it's like to have a beautiful child like I was. So people's consciousness vastly expands to not only include himself, but the people around him also.
And what were the results of these studies on psychedelics? I assume when you talk about psychedelics, which psychedelic are you referring to, and also what results?
So we did a very, very large $63 million study on MDMA. And MDMA.
How many people involved? How many subjects involved?
Over 200 people.
Okay.
Yep. And people got either placebo or they got psychedelic experience. Got a lot of psychotherapy. And I thought that psychotherapy alone would probably be at least as powerful as the psychedelics. And it turned out not to be the case. That psychotherapy alone was somewhat helpful, but adding psychedelics to it made a profound difference. And that's why you focus on methods to calm yourself down. Yep, it's not bad. Gets you some of the way, but you need to go deeper, and you go deeper with other people who really help you to go into your trauma and develop that deep compassion for yourself.
Interesting. Okay, now Bessel, we're gonna go into the Q&A part. If it's okay for you. We're over an hour now, so I think it's time to try to answer a few questions from the audience. So first question is from Richard, who says, I suffer from extreme touch deprivation. My parents told me I was neglected very much as an infant. Is this trauma? And if so, how does it impact my CPTSD therapy, both body and mind?
I think, it's strictly speaking not trauma. But boy, not having been touched, not having been seen, not having been known is a very profound experience that oftentimes is the other side of trauma. That trauma, most trauma that I see is interfamilial trauma. people haven't been hurt by their own family. And interfamilial trauma happens much more often when there's a neglectful parent who doesn't really have enough energy to focus on you and your needs, so that you're being neglected. And when you're being neglected, bad things happen to you in addition. But not being seen and being known is a huge issue, because we become who we are by the responses we get from other people. And so if I would say, don't become a therapist until you have some kids to learn about human development. And kids need you. They need your smile, and you need to mirror each other, and you need to be in sync with each other. You need to laugh together. You need to cry together. You need to cook together. You need to make things together. That's who we are as human beings. We're deeply social creatures who get our pleasure out of our communal activities. Eating with people, making love with people, playing tennis with people, going hiking with people. They're all communal, rhythmical activities, basically. And so if you don't have those and you're left by yourself, you don't get a sense of self, because you get your sense of self by being seen and being known, and somebody's laughing about a joke you tell and being upset because you're hurt. We need that interpersonal resonance with each other. And when early in your life you're being ignored, it oftentimes is very hard to feel pleasure with other people and feel pleasure in yourself. So what was striking in our research very unexpectedly is that psychedelics, MDMA, turned out to be extraordinarily effective for that, which I had not expected. And somehow that opened up that openness to yourself as a precious person who could play with other people, who does enjoy other people. And it's a major issue. And the other thing that we use is theater. We love to work with deprived children and have them play roles in plays, and to see what it feels like to be a powerful king, and to be a beggar, and to be an angry person, and to be a sad person, and to help kids in particular to really feel viscerally what it feels like to have a whole range of emotions, because they did not get those early on in their lives. And so you need to instill it in people later on. But it's a very real issue, and I'm glad you asked that question, because that oftentimes gets people don't pay much attention to it, and they sort of say, "Oh, why you take a drug to be less depressed?" No, you need to have experiences of being engaged with people and opening up the possibility of feeling pleasure, and opening the possibility that you can give pleasure to other people, and that you have an impact on other people, and other people have an impact on you.
We have a few questions in the chat. I see a few people answering to each other. There, Carrie and Susan, who says, Carrie and Deborah, who are saying, please talk about how to stop a panic attack. And that's a very recurring question. We touched on it, but could you speak about this again? How to stop a panic attack?
Well, again, I don't think by and large you do these things by yourself. You are with somebody a therapist, a body worker, who actually can help you to feel what you feel. And when you have a panic attack, you don't necessarily stop it. Somebody can be with you, and you say, when the panic attack comes up, say, notice that. What happens? What do you feel in your chest? What do you feel in your legs? What happens if you take a deep breath? What happens if you stretch? And so somebody can work with you to get you out of that rigid panic state, to open it up. You might be able to do it by yourself, but boy, you need to have a very good observing frontal lobe to allow yourself to observe your panic reaction. And most of us need somebody to be with us to make us feel safe to feel what we feel. And that's really the whole issue with trauma, is you need to make it safe for people to feel what they feel. And so I wouldn't say stop the panic attack, just notice how when you have a panic attack, it comes to an end. And notice where you feel it in your body. And notice maybe what triggered it. And what did it bring up for you? Oh, I was being beaten as a kid. And when that person looked at me and angry, I got a panic attack. Oh, how do you feel about that kid who was being beaten up? What would you do for that kid? How could you help that internal part of yourself to feel safe and calm? But it's an interpersonal process.
Yes, I just get for some people sometimes they are not with people, so it's they can't really rely on it. I guess you could call someone though
Well,
that knows real.
now you need to take it seriously. It's not like, uh, you know, this is a big deal. And, you know, the people are getting lonelier and lonelier because of screens. And so you make a commitment that the people who really got it is the AA program, Alcoholics Anonymous, a 12-step program where people get together and are devoted to each other. And the core part of being alive is to be devoted to each other. I'll take care of you and you'll take care of me. And every Tuesday at 5 o'clock, we meet and I can count on your being there. These are not individual processes. These are always social engagement processes.
We have a question from Yvonne. How can we identify our trauma if we do not remember our childhood years?
You don't have to identify your trauma. You just have to identify what's going on right now. And to really become very aware about who this person is and how this person reacts. And as you become more curious and open about yourself, it is very likely that stuff will start coming up. Again, this is not an individual enterprise. You work with other people who are really deeply interested in you. Say, what does it feel like? What does it remind you of? And then slowly things open up. In our psychedelic work and our EMDR work, people all the time come up with new memories and new experiences that they had no access to before. But things come up as you start doing the work.
Lynn Johnson is asking, could Bessel address the connection between trauma and chronic pain?
Well, I can say that there is a strong relationship between trauma and chronic pain, and that indeed your body gets frozen in a very tight position, and there's a huge overlap between trauma and, let's say, fibromyalgia and chronic pain. And then at this point, I know some people who specialize in it, who are very good body workers who can help people, some people with their chronic pain. But, you know, it's interesting. I have a neighbor who's now died, who was the head of the National Institute of Rheumatology. And rheumatology is also about chronic pain. And I said, so he was the head in all of America of all of rheumatology. And I said, so are you studying fibromyalgia? He says, nah, that's just bullshit. That's unimportant. I'm studying a very obscure illness. And so this major scientist did not even want to study chronic pain, even though it is such a common problem. But we see, and for example, internal family system therapy, which I hope you'll talk about sometime in your thing. You talk about parts of yourself, and there was a study being done on internal family system therapy, which is a very good trauma treatment, and they found that people with chronic pain were able to calm themselves down and feel safer in their bodies. So it can be done, but you need to work with the body. You need to work with your psychological processes.
What you are mentioning is internal family systems?
Yeah, that is sort of the standard psychotherapeutic approach that many of us use. Really getting to know the different aspects of yourself and really integrating the different parts of yourself. Yeah.
Okay. Question from Von. Are you familiar with chakra systems?
I've heard about it. Of course, you hear about it. There's not much research that's been done on chakra systems. When I go to China, which I do from time to time, I always tell people, but you better figure out what these acupressure points are about, because if they're real, you should have a real representation for it. But at this point, we don't really know the science behind chakras. They're there, but they're still quite mysterious. Yeah.
Okay. Before we get to other questions for you, Bessel, we have a few questions on the masterclass. When does the masterclass start? After I sign up, the masterclass, once you've signed up, you get immediate access to the masterclass. There's 7 hours of content, about 17 lessons. And as I mentioned, you get in the offer weekly sessions with trauma specialized coaches who will help you put that in practice in your weekly habits. Can I watch the masterclass on my phone? Yes, you can watch the masterclass on your phone. You can watch it also in audio. You can download it if you need. You can also pay in installments. We had a question from Olivia, so you can pay in 3 times if you need. I also had some questions because I mentioned there were only 500 spots for this offer, just because we have a limited amount of coaches, and there's a question if there are still spots available. So the response is yes. It's filling up, but there are still some spots available for those who want to join us. Okay, let's continue with some. We had a lot of questions, so I'm just going through it. How does conversion disorder manifest as a result from trauma, and can it be healed? Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, that rings a bell. That certainly conversion is part of the trauma spectrum, of how that people who are traumatized, their minds are able to ignore certain things, not have the feelings anymore, but the body can still express itself with paralysis, etc. And that's the oldest thing ever studied in psychiatry was conversion disorders and hysteria, where people lost power over a limb and power over their musculature and had convulsions without any mental content. Yeah. And that's really the capacity of the mind to protect itself against being overwhelmed by the totality of the trauma. And so that needs to be integrated by people, helping people to really feel their feelings and feel their sensations and feel all of themselves. Yeah.
Okay. Trauma is a spectrum, and everyone experiences some kind of trauma. How do you determine which trauma have significantly damaged you? I guess the question is what is trauma and what is just a wound? Where do you draw the line, sort of?
I don't draw lines like that.
Okay.
For me, it's just not the instant question. Is, are you leading the life you need to lead? Are you fulfilling your potential? Are you a loving, open-minded, open-hearted person? And the job of a therapist is to help people to be alive and fully alive in the present. And whether you label it terrible trauma or not terrible trauma, it's not so terribly important. But in research, you focus on particular things and how they affect the brain. But as a therapist, you just deal with people's lives.
A question from Candice, which I think a lot of people can relate to. Is the healing process super slow? I have been trying to work on healing my nervous system, but it is taking me years to get small gains. It is quite disheartening, and I'm wondering if I am not getting the healing part right.
Well, it is a slow process, and everybody who I know who has done well has tried a number of different things. And so indeed, it's a slow process, and then life comes your way. You have a baby, and that brings out all kinds of things. You have a new job with new challenges, brings out new things. You have a new relationship, brings out new things. I've been in practice Some of the people I know, I've seen off and on for 50 years. And at one point, we were two young people, and now we're two old people, and all kind of things have happened in between them, and people slowly learn. But the reason why I wrote my book, How the Body Keeps Score, is to really show people what different things are available, so that if you find that your own method that you're doing is not getting you where you want to be, see what else there is in that book that you say, I should try that. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
So keep exploring other things and don't keep doing the same thing that isn't working. And then you need to be curious and adventurous and take risks to try something else. And one of the hardest things when you're traumatized is you often have such a terrible idea about yourself, and your therapist may also tell you what a damaged person you are, that you can't trust your feelings. But if something isn't working, it's very important to acknowledge this isn't working for me, and to really say, I should try something else. This does not necessarily mean that I'm bad or I'm defective. No, but this particular thing is not working. Let me see what else I can do.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to be open-minded and open-hearted and try out a variety of different things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have a question from Stephanie. Do you believe that a 92-year-old could do this kind of trauma healing work? You've mentioned a few leads for healing. How is it different, and what have you seen working for that age?
Are you 92 years old?
Yes.
If you're 92 and you ask that question, I would say that's a good sign. That means that you're curious, you're open, you're trying to do things. Most 92-year-olds are just clinging on to function as well as they can, and are not particularly open to try new things. But if you're open to try new things, by all means, try it out.
I mean, I might be wrong, but I would think that maybe it's a daughter, or yeah.
Well, the thing is, what can you do? You know, the way I got turned on to yoga was interesting. There was a TV program here in Boston about people in a nursing home doing yoga. And people were stiff and unbalanced. And they really began to be more fluid in their bodies and have more pleasure in their lives. And I thought that's really interesting. That's what got me into yoga originally. And so a friend of mine recently wrote to me and said, good friends of mine, and say, my husband is really quite depressed. Do you think psychedelic medicines might be helpful for him? And I say, it's worth a try. Go to a very good person who can do it and see what will happen. Life is an experiment. And the experiment sometimes fails and sometimes succeeds. And so keep trying out new things.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, I think we're getting to the end of the webinar, so we'll take just a couple more questions, and then we'll close this session for today. We have a question from Hannah Hundal. How do addictions start from trauma?
Oh, that's very much correlated. The research shows that it's almost impossible to become an addict without having a history of child abuse. Child abuse and addictions go very hand in hand, and it makes perfect sense. When you're abused, you feel horrible sensations in your body.
Mm-hmm.
You have emotions that you cannot stand, and so you start taking stuff that makes those emotions go away, and then you get addicted to these particular things. So there's a very strong correlation between addiction and trauma. And addiction, I would say, generally starts with trying to medicate your own trauma away. Yeah, that example I like to give when I give a talk is, if I have a little fentanyl over here, I say to my audience, hey, I have some fentanyl. Who would like to take some fentanyl? Most people would go like, this guy is crazy. But there may be 2 or 3 people in the audience who go like, I feel so bad. I'll try some fentanyl. Mm-hmm. If you feel good about yourself, you don't take heroin because you love your body. And if you love your body, you don't do terrible things to your body. But if you're desperate and you don't see how you can turn, you'll do anything to make it go away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's how it goes.
Last question from Carrie. How do you calm acute anxiety.
Go there, feel it.
Okay.
Listen to what your body's trying to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? And again, hard to do by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have therapists. Say, notice that, feel that. When does it happen? What are you reacting to? What have you done that helps you? And what else can you do that might make you feel better about yourself? Do you feel less anxious? Are you able to tell the truth? Oftentimes the case. If you can really tell your secrets, you'll stop being uptight because it's been safe to share your secrets. But if you have a secret, you must be afraid of people finding out about your secret. And so you need to be with somebody who can slowly help you to open up about your secrets.
That's very true. That's very true. Well, thank you, Bessel. People, can you tell us in the chat how did you find it? Did you like it? Did you get something from it? Let us know. I know I loved it. Discovered a lot of things and a lot of different leads for you to explore. Now we're gonna play for you the teaser and then the first lesson of the masterclass that we built with Gabor. So for those who want to stay on, you can watch the first part of the masterclass, and then I'll stay over for some people if you have some questions about the masterclass itself. But otherwise, for all the others, I'll see you tomorrow for Gabor's conference on the heart. So it's the third step. It's gonna be amazing, and I hope to see you there. Thank you everyone for being such a good participation in the chat, and thank you Bessel for everything. And speak to you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. We're gonna play for you the.
In my masterclass, Heal, I built for the first time a practical step-by-step guide towards healing. And now that's what I'm going to share here with you. As a physician and a therapist, I work through the people whose lives have been shaped by trauma, some obvious, others more hidden. I've seen how unresolved pain silently infuses every aspect of life, from relationships to mental health to even physical health. I've treated people facing the scars of narcissistic abuse, child abuse, sexual trauma, and many other wounds, big and small. And through this, I've developed a structured approach to healing trauma that can transform suffering into resilience and into strength. After 40 years of practice, I've poured everything I've learned into this masterclass so as to transform your life. It includes over 5 hours of exclusive content, dozens of exercises and regular practices, meditations I personally guide, scientific information, and daily tools. Understanding trauma is not just about the past, it's primarily about reclaiming your present. I'm here to tell you that yes, you can heal. I'm Gabor Mate, and I invite you to take the journey with me. Now, if you're anything like me, when something triggers you and you got upset, you lose it. We use the word expression in English, losing it. What do we lose? We lose self-regulation. We lose the capacity to be in charge of ourselves. Something erupts out of us. And sometimes you can even watch it happen, but feel helpless to stop it. What's really going on is that the front part of your brain that regulates responses goes offline, and an old defensive, aggressive part of your brain takes over. It's almost like the reptilian part of your brain takes over your behavior. So we need to have some kind of an emergency kit to stop that from happening. Because when you act that way, certainly when I've acted that way, what follows is regret and remorse and guilt, and then having to clean up a mess that ideally we might not have created in the first place. So take your healing diary, and the first thing you'll do is just write down, either in paragraphs or in point form, some examples when you've behaved that way, when you've erupted that way, and then you were deeply regretful. So just write down the examples. And notice what happens in your body as you're writing them down. And do so without self-blame. Do so with just almost like a scientific precision of here's what happened, here's what triggered me, here's what I felt. So that's the first thing you do. And once you've done that, whether it's 1 page or 2, whatever length it takes you, write down some words that you might wish to say to yourself at such moments. So what would words be that you would utter to yourself that would calm you down? Just write them down. This doesn't have to be long. In fact, if you make it too long, it'll be counterproductive. So just a few sentences that you would wish to hear say to yourself at such moments. When you've written that, then, and if you're satisfied with it, then dictate or write the words into the text notes on your phone, because they'll be available for you everywhere you go, because most people carry their phones everywhere. So just have these notes in your phone, and then finally record them in your own voice and keep the audio on your phone. So when you're in that state, you can actually just push the button and listen to yourself. And what I'm going to do is to give an example in my own voice, talking to you, and you can keep this with you as well. And I completely understand that when you're in that state, the last thing you want to do is somebody telling you to calm down. So let's take a bit of practice and self-compassion and patience. Here's what I would say to you, and what I would say to myself at such moments. I'd say, listen, my friend, I totally get how you feel. You're outraged, you're hurt, you're in pain, you have a lot of anger. And you know from past experience that when you behave from those places, whatever you do will be counterproductive. Because what you want is to be understood. You want to be seen. You actually want to be loved. And the result, if you act from those emotions, from that upset, will be just the opposite. So just stop. Take a few breaths. Go back to that breathing exercise, that 4, 7, 8 breathing exercise. Move around, calm down, and be kind to yourself. That it's okay. This will pass. You've been through this before. That's the words that I would say to myself or say to you. And you can keep my words with you if that's helpful to you. The final bit of advice I would give here would be that, if possible, don't wait for the eruption, because if you pay close attention to yourself And this is why one of the reasons why we're trying to encourage body awareness throughout this whole masterclass is once you notice the tension in yourself, maybe stop whatever's going on and reach for this kit, even before the eruption. So my general message is, wherever there's tension, it requires attention. And if you pay close enough attention to yourself, before the eruption, you'll start noticing the tension rising in your body. And that's the time to stop. You know, people, when they have epileptic fits, sometimes they can feel it coming on, and they actually take a medication before the fit comes on them. Well, you can do the same thing.
What did you think, people? I'm here. I'll stay here for a few more minutes to answer any questions you might have about Gabor's masterclass. So don't hesitate in the chat to send over questions, anything about the course. I really love this part that we just saw of Gabor. It's an incredible, what we call the emergency kit. It's just one part of the emergency kit. Actually, there's like 10 tools on there. But one of them is this message in the bottle. And I think it's very powerful because you have this audio of Gabor, who is speaking to you at that moment and saying those words. And I think that can be very, very soothing and can really change the course of things for you. And it's actually something that he's recorded for him. So, you know, it has an incredible value for you and for anyone. So just a reminder, I'm going to remind you what's in the masterclass, and then maybe I'll show you how it looks also on the inside the website, right? So let me show you. You have, there you go. You have 4 sections. Hear the pain. I talked about that. What is trauma? Recognizing trauma in your life. All those are the timestamps, so you can see that there's a lot of content. Authenticity versus attachment. How trauma impacts physical health. There's a lot on addiction and trauma and how to build alternative coping mechanisms. A whole section on empowering yourself, dealing with triggers and self-destructive reactions is a very big one. I can see here, but it's about 30 minutes. 2 sections on strategies and therapies for healing trauma. So you can see that there's a lot of content in there. And there's an incredible part of this masterclass is the live interactions. Why? Because you probably saw in the video, there's an audience that we selected out of about 500 people, and there were about 30 of them. And Gabor interacted, they did live consultations with them and really created really mesmerizing moments with them, a moment of change that hopefully can be really contagious for you. I know it was contagious even for the audience of the shooting that were there. We were about 50 people during the shooting, by the way. So it's a really big team. We've been working on that for about a year and a half that we got in touch with Gabor. We talked about healing as a couple. We talked about parenting, and then there's a whole section on what to take with you and how to implement it in your daily life. Because I think a lot of the things that were recurring in the discussions we had today and we had yesterday is that, well, things will come from changing your habits, changing the way you live. And I really liked the comment of one of the person in the chat that you have to build a second nature, because that's how you're gonna break free. It's like learning how to swim. You have to swim. You have to create a real new muscles, new reactions in your body. So let me please, for those who are interested, share with you how it's going to look on the website. There you go. I'm going to make this big. So this is the website. I'm just going to sign in. For you, you would have to sign in and buy the masterclass. You would go on a checkout and buy the masterclass. So here I already have an account because I'm the co-founder, so I can get, and I have the privilege to go straight in. And this is, how it's going to look. There's a lot of content in there. There's about more than 50 masterclasses, and a lot of them about healing. Boris Cyrulnik is another one, a French psychiatrist whose parents were kidnapped by the Nazis when he was 3, and he really created a whole theory about the theory of resilience to be able to go out of trauma. So that's one of the courses. But I just wanted to show you the course of Gabor. So here is how it's going to look. You're gonna if you join the course, here is how it's going to look. You're gonna have the whole lessons here that I talked about. You can see here the pain, empower yourself to heal, and so on. So if you go to the first one, for example, there you go. This is the first lesson of the course. It's you have a whole section with comments, and you can see actually now I start to listen and look through everything again. Perhaps I discover new things. I am happy for Gabor as a mentor. I felt I was listening to a very soothing voice. There's a lot of comments on there. I can show you, for example, there's the second part. For example, even I get lost because we have a lot of content in there. For example, the impact and the event. These exercises, I realize how one traumatic response may actually be driving a repetitive traumatic experience in another area. You can see what can I show you? This is the whole. Let me show you. So here the pain. This is the first part. Then you get empower yourself to heal. That's what I was looking for. So that was dealing with triggers and self-destructive reactions. There was a lot of questions today about panic attacks. So this is what we've built with Gabor on these triggers, self-destructive reactions. It's really an incredible, there's a lot of tools in there and things that you can use to help you. You can see here there's a few comments. Victory, thank you so much for sharing this story. I think a lot of us can see ourselves in you. I am so proud of you for sharing and being open to seeing how our minds lie to us. Fantastic. Couldn't relate much, couldn't relate more. This class was fantastic, gave many insights. I admire the woman you triggered and admire your way of handling and showing her and us how everything functions. So this is, yeah, and you can see some people are sharing this emergency playlist because Gabor also made emergency playlist as part of the emergency kit, because what he says in the masterclass is that music is maybe the best tool to go to your emotions. and that's true, right? We use music. It's almost the only thing that can create instant emotions in us, so that's why Gabor created an emergency kit playlist for you, so that you can use that along the message in the bottle as well, in case of difficulty. So that's just one of the tools that we had in there for these moments. But you can see there's so many so much content in there. The meta practice, for example, that is incredible. A lot of content. Also, I didn't mention that before, but there's a whole lesson on how to support a loved one who has experienced trauma, and there's a lot of bonus as well, a few coachings that have already happened. And another bonus that you will get is you will get all the replays from the healing days, right? So you will get the replay of today and yesterday and the one tomorrow, and also the one on Saturday. And I think one of the most important thing is that you're gonna get as well weekly support. So I think that's really incredible, and it's the first time that we do this. It's that in the offer of the healing days that we presented to you, you're gonna get weekly coaching sessions. You get access to specialized coaches who are specialized in trauma, and also especially in Gabor's teachings. So we've selected, thanks to him, so that you can get actually people who know the masterclass, they know the course very well, and they can help you implement it. And also, if you don't understand something, you can talk to them about it. So I can see your question. So I didn't see it before, so I'm going to start answering those. When do the weekly coaching sessions start? They already started. Next one is on Saturday. So you're going to get it every week. Do we get access to all the other teachers on the website as well? You get access to all the other teachers that I showed you. You're also going to get the future masterclasses, so the one with Bessel and many others that are still in the pipeline. Elise, who's saying, in the masterclass, can we go at our own pace? What if I go on? Yes, you can go at your own pace. I showed you on the website. Whenever you have 10 minutes, 5 minutes, you can just log in and you can just watch what you want to watch, and go back to it when you have more time. So there it is. I think we created Mentor Show because we felt like healing is actually possible, but it has to start from a conscious choice. I think a conscious choice that of faith that I can heal with the right support, and I think here you have a support with Gabor, who is honestly amazing, and who is one of the most recognized teacher on trauma in the world. So you get his teachings. He's worked with us for about a year, so he's really poured in his heart into it, and I think he's we're very proud of the content that we created here. So you get these teachings, the guidance of Gabor, the guidance of Bessel, but you also get these coaching sessions where you can have answers from specialized coaches, and also I would say a community of people that will have the same situation as you, and with which you can share these things. Okay, so I think we're almost 2 hours now. I'm maybe answering a few more questions, and then we're gonna close, because we need to be fresh for tomorrow, because tomorrow it's gonna be with Gabor on the heart. Let me see how many masterclasses you have. So there's more than 50 masterclasses. We have a lot of masterclasses on healing from psychiatrists, but also spiritual teachers. So there's a lot of learnings in there. All right. All right, everyone. I think we've covered all the topics. So I think we had a great time today. I think this webinar with Bessel was wonderful. And I'll see you tomorrow with Gabor. See you, everyone. Bye-bye.